Since February, we've been pretty active drilling. It took us a while to get on the ground because it was pretty wet, but back on the ground, did a lot of drilling around Mia predominantly, which is that high grade to the north-south striking trend within the Mount Ridley project. Continue to come up with a lot of very good high grade results. You know, we had assays that we put out in the quarterly in June up to just under 5,000 ppm over some pretty big widths. So that is a consistent high grade pod within the Mount Ridley project, which we're pretty encouraged by. And we did get an assay in the hard rock up to 0.5%. So from a drilling perspective, yeah, we did quite a bit. Stopped a couple of months ago, again with the wet weather, and looking to start up sort of late September, early October.
So some of those drilling you mentioned, that they actually went up to as high as 2%.
Yeah.
Is that, do you guys see that as just part of the project, or is it?
Well, it's up to 0.5%, I think. Might have been a couple a bit high, but a bit of an unknown. I mean, basically this is a saprolite, so we're getting leaching of rare earths coming out of the hard rock. Whether we've got a carbonatite or some other intrusion that's got some hard rock potential and some high grade, we're not sure. So next phase of work, we'll do some deeper drilling to see if we can have a look at the hard rock and see if there is some sort of hard rock source. Clearly there is, you know, whether it's economic or not, or just some spot high grade values, we're not sure.
Okay. And the beneficiation results, I mean, that's crucial. The whole clarity of stories reaching this point now, right?
That's right. I mean, over the last 2 years, I mean, it's a young sector which is coming from a very low knowledge base. But one thing I'm seeing is, you know, unless you can beneficiate this material, clays up to, you know, 1,500, 2,500, 3,000 ppm, I think they're really going to struggle. I'll put the ionic clays to one side because they can operate on a lower grade, but there's very few ionic deposits in Australia, or if there are, they're only a very small proportion. So I suppose meteoric's the good example of one that's about 40% ionic in Brazil. So that's so far got the best, you know, leach characteristics of anything I've seen in the clay space. But fortunately, you know, Mount Ridley does have a lot of that felsic rich material which does beneficiate. So that's been a huge bonus, and obviously the results we put out recently, you know, showing 150, 160% upgrade were pretty encouraging, I thought.
And your leach testing is kind of consistent with that upgrading story as well, I guess.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a couple of parts to it. We sort of, because we're in a saline environment, we decided that sulfuric acid, which was the lixivant that most people were looking to use, was not going to work because we're in a saline environment. So we figured hydrochloric's a better reagent, and we're getting much higher recoveries, up to sort of 70-80%. The downside of that is it pulls out a lot of the aluminium and iron and other impurities. So the leach tests have been good. The next part of the puzzle we need to solve is, you know, how are we going to pull out all these impurities at the back end? And if we are using hydrochloric, which is pretty aggressive acid, you know, down to a pH of below 1, you know, what implications is that going to have for capital costs? So we're going to need to use a lot of stainless steel, and you know, what are the implications for that?